Morning. So I'm Lesley. I am the dietitian here at the Slimming Clinic, and I thought today we would talk a little bit about intermittent fasting. So it's a bit of a fashion just now. I get lots of inquiries, lots of clients want to talk about it. Should they be doing it? What does it involve? Is it something we should be doing while taking medication here at the Slimming Clinic? So I'll talk firstly about what is intermittent fasting. So fasting, it's not a new concept. So if you can imagine, lots of times throughout life and different religions take on a fasting concept kind of throughout the year. So it's been around for thousands of years, but what is exactly intermittent fasting in this kind of modern day? So really the basis of the intermittent fasting involves periods of normal food consumption with planned times of food abstinence. So it's not just that you've missed your lunch, but more about you've planned a period where you're not going to eat. And most of us will do a degree of this. Most of us will fast overnight and we'll break our fast with our breakfast in the morning, and that's really kind of how breakfast got its name. So currently the fashion is intermittent fasting, which usually refers to a 16-8 regimen. So you fast for 16 hours and you consume your daily intake over an 8-hour window. So for example, if you finished eating at 6 o'clock at night, then you wouldn't eat again till 10 o'clock in the next day. It can also be known as time restricted feeding, but it's often referred to as intermittent fasting. And not everybody does it for weight loss, and we'll discuss that a little bit later on. Are there any health benefits for having a period of fasting? And although it's maybe not planned for weight loss, some people do find a weight loss with it, and that's just because there's a shorter period of time that they're actually eating over. There's different types of fasting about, but you get intermittent fasting, but you also get alternative day fasting. You get intermittent fasting where you don't eat for 16 hours and you eat for 8 hours, but you also get alternative day feeding. So that's where you fast every other day. So you eat normally one day, and then the next day you all you consume is fluids. So all you consume is liquids over that day. But most people, instead of doing that, tend to do something called the 5-2, and that was a diet that was brought to light a couple of years ago. Michael Mosley was a big advocate of the 5-2 diet. So that really is where, instead of completely fasting, alternative days, what you do is 2 to 3 days of the week, you drop the calories down to around about 600 calories on these days, and the rest of the week you eat as you would normally. So instead of having that 400 to 500 daily calorie deficit, what you do is you condense it so that over a couple of days of the week you have a much reduced calorie intake of around about 600 calories. There are other people who do fasting for longer periods of time, but the fashion just now, I'm seeing lots of people talking about 16-8 and 5-2 and potentially alternative day fasting as well. So as you know, here at the Slimming Clinic, we support clients to lose weight by following a well-balanced diet, exercise and healthier lives with support with weight loss medication. So is there a need to fast if you're working with us already and you're already taking medication? Is this something that you should get involved with? So what I would say is, is intermittent fasting good for weight loss? So like all diets as such, intermittent fasting is capable of putting your body into a calorie deficit, which in turn can cause a short-term weight loss. So when I looked at the studies, when I looked at the information out there to say, was intermittent fasting more productive at weight loss compared to just a normal calorie deficit, what I found is we work on things like random controlled trials. So we have to look to make sure that the evidence is out there. So the best evidence came from about 11 random controlled trials at intermittent fasting, and 9 out of those 11 trials showed no clinical significant difference between the groups in terms of weight and fat loss. So it appeared that there wasn't any extra benefit. They didn't appear to lose any more weight than the standard way of losing weight, and potentially there wasn't any long-term weight loss better results with intermittent fasting to compare to normal calorie deficit. So in my experience, what I would say is that we're always looking for our clients to look at how are we going to sustain this weight loss long term. So, and what I do find is when people build diets on very strict, extreme guidelines, that they can't kind of do it long term. So what I would say is that the evidence out there isn't that it's any more successful than any other way to lose weight. But if you're wanting to do this, that you need to make sure that you've planned it well, and that you're thinking about, what am I going to do to maintain this weight loss? I can't just go back to the way that I was eating before. So are there any side effects with intermittent fasting? So it really depends on the person. So for myself, when I've tried to do intermittent fasting, my body doesn't like it. Now there's two reasons. I have polycystic ovaries and I have IBS. So my body likes small, frequent intake. So for me, I have to look at the overall calorie intake for the day and the overall nutrition that I'm getting in over the day, rather than having long periods of not eating. I also have had clients who've tried intermittent fasting, and a few of them have said they feel it affects their mood. They find that they're hangry, and they find it hard to concentrate. And that just must mean that those clients respond differently to when there's lower blood sugar levels, so maybe don't function just as well. But then on the other hand, I've also had clients that have said that they felt that they had increase in concentration, they could think clearer, they felt that the mood was better. So it really just depends on the individual, and whether you feel that it's something that you can tolerate. What I would say is that you have to consider what else is going on in your life. So as we know, when you're trying to lose weight, it needs concentration, it needs focus. And so if there's lots going on in your life, if you're having a very stressful period in your life, if you find that you're sleeping poorly, if you find that you respond differently at different points in your menstruation cycle, you need to really think about, is this something that I want to take on as well? Is this something that I have the focus to do, or the headspace to do as well? Or is it going to affect my sleep? Is it going to make me more stressed to try to organise? The other thing to keep in mind is that it's good and well to fast for 16 hours, but you've got to think about, what are you doing in those 8 hours? Is that long period of fasting causing you then to binge over those 8 hours, and they find that your appetite is uncontrollable and that you're eating much more than you would do normally? So that's completely contradictory to what you're trying to do. So I would say, think about it. If you think this is going to trigger off a degree of binge eating or overeating, then you may do better with a longer period of eating, rather than trying to do it over eight hours. And the other thing to keep into consideration is that when we go into a fasting state, there can be an increased level of cortisol, and this can have a negative effect on our body as well. So it can sometimes slow down people's metabolism. So you've got to just be careful, think about, is this something that I can do? Am I already too busy enough to concentrate on adding a next level of weight loss into my plan? So who is intermittent fasting not recommended for? So I would definitely say, if you are diabetic and you are on any sugar lowering medication like glycoside or insulin, you would really need to discuss with your doctor and your nurse about how you could fit fasting in with your own medication regimen. If you have somebody who's thinking about conceiving, so if you're thinking about falling pregnant, if you are currently pregnant, or if you're breastfeeding, I wouldn't advise intermittent fasting. If you have in the past had an issue with eating, and you have maybe a degree of underlying disordered eating that you've had in the past, you have to be very careful when you bring in things like fasting, because you just have to make sure that it doesn't trigger off any of those negative connotations with eating. And also, if you're on medication that requires to be taken at specific times with food, again, this is something you'd have to discuss with your doctor, as in, what is it suitable for you and for your medication. And what I would say is, as one of the health professionals here at the Slimming Clinic, a lot of my job is actually talking to people and advising them on the need to eat more, because we find a lot of people come to us very over-restricted, and then it's trying to work with the medication, but trying to get them to eat a little bit more, because we do know that when people drop their calories too much, that it can increase this cortisol response and can have a negative effect on the metabolism. And we can also know that they tend to lose more muscle tissue compared to body fat tissue, which again has a direct effect on the metabolism too. So what I would think about is, if you really want to ensure that this is something that is suitable for you and is suitable for your weight loss journey. So let me tell you a little bit more about what happens to your body when you go into a fasting state. So when in a state of fasting, your body is trying to preserve glucose. So if you can imagine, every cell in your body requires glucose as part of its energy cycle, and especially your brain and your spinal cord are in a constant supply and needing a constant supply of glucose to function properly. So what happens is, when you stop, potentially when you've got a window of fasting, your body starts to use up some of your body's stores to produce this glucose. Your body will eventually convert your body fat stores into a glucose that your body can use. We also found that in this fasting state, so this time where you're not eating, there is something that it called autophagy. This happens when your body cells break themselves down and then regenerate themselves. We've found that when the studies have looked at fasting states, that this autophagy happens, and it's a really helpful process. So it's your body's way of regenerating its cells, clearing out old cells, and consuming them and causing your body to produce new and healthier cells. So it's actually a very helpful thing. This appears to happen more when your body's in a state of fasting. So this autophagy process happens all the time, but when we're in a prolonged fasting state, it appears that the body cells increase the removal and repair of all these damaged molecules. And this is what the scientists are getting excited about. So this is what the buzz is about with the researchers, that this could have many benefits to our health, and that they think it might help improve our blood sugar regulation, increase our resistance to stress, and decrease our inflammation as well. And so what I would say is that nowadays we're exposed to so much food. There's so much food everywhere that you turn to, from going to the cinema to turning up at the till in the supermarket, to going to the petrol station, all the adverts on the television, so that we are exposed constantly to food and the thought of food as well. So therefore, not having a period of not eating is giving yourself a chance to regenerate and clear out all those old body cells. And because if we're always eating, our body's too busy trying to process the food that we have brought in, and not helping process its own self. So what are the proven health benefits of intermittent fasting? So looking at the research, as I said, there doesn't seem to be any particular benefit doing intermittent fasting to doing a normal weight loss process. So lots of the research that's been carried out looking at intermittent fasting has been carried out in animal studies. So we need to be careful when we're looking at this, as in, is this helpful for us as humans? So what I would say is that there needs to be more studies done on humans to see if this what they can find in animal studies replicates into a human response. So they potentially see that there's an improvement in blood pressure and blood lipids. They seem to think that there's a better impact on a reduction in glucose and insulin sensitivity. It appears to be there's a better endurance and balance and coordination, but all these studies have been done in mice. So they've not been done in human studies, but they've been done in mice. And they appear to be suppressed inflammation of the brain. And again, this appears to be linked with conditions like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, and there appears to be an improvement in memory. But again, this is all done in animal studies. This has not been done in human studies. So it looks like there could be a link in reduction of inflammation, better endurance, reduction in insulin sensitivity, and improvement in blood lipids and blood pressure. But again, we just have to see, we need more human studies to see if these are actually going to be replicated for us as well. So if you have decided that you're working with us here at the Slimming Clinic, but you do want to do something like the 5-2 or the 16-8, so what are the key things that you should be doing? So what I would say is, if you're doing the 5-2, so that's 2 days where you're doing 600 calories, 2 days of the week, you need to make sure that every meal counts. So you need to make sure that it's not just 600 calories of anything that you're eating, but it's 600 calories of quality that you're eating. So what I would say is I'd get your main part of those meals to be based on protein. So that's beans, lentils and pulses, tofu, corn, meat, fish, chicken, yogurts, eggs, because you get more from protein. So protein, again, will give you all your amino acids for your body cells. It will also give you a degree of satiety. So if you're only eating 600 calories, if you've got a higher amount of protein in these meals, you're going to feel fuller. So you're not going to feel just as hungry. Plus, what you want to do is maximise your vegetables, and especially your green leafy vegetables. Again, you get more from these. So things like your spinach, your kale, your broccoli, your Brussels sprouts, your cabbage. So having more green leafy vegetables is a benefit as well. And if you are going to have any carbohydrates, you want to make sure that they're whole grain. One, for the fibre point of view, and two, for the better nutrients in them. So having things like oats, wholemeal pasta, wholemeal rice, things like quinoa, buckwheat, pearl barley, they will give you carbohydrates, but they'll also give you fibre, and they'll take longer to be released. And that combination of fibre plus protein is going to make you feel fuller for longer. So especially on those days that you're having that reduced calorie intake down to 600 calories. The other thing you've got to pay attention to is fluid, because we get 20% of our daily fluid intake from food as well. So if your calorie intake on those days is much lower, you want to make sure that you're maximising your hydration. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water, caffeine-free liquids. So making sure that you've got plenty of fluids in your diet on those days as well. If you're thinking about doing 16-8 long term, so you're thinking for the next 12 weeks, I'm going to embark on a 16-8 program where I only eat for 8 hours and I fast for 16. What you really need to do is make sure that in those 8 hours that you're getting the balance. So you may find that you only manage 2 meals. You might find it's too difficult to get 3 meals in. So you want to make sure they've got all the principles of the 5-2. So you get your high protein, high fibre, plenty of fluids, plenty of vegetables in there as well. But you need to make sure you've got good fats as well. So you've got your olive oil, your rapeseed oil, your avocados, your nuts, your seeds. Again, because all your cells need fat as well. And then you need to make sure that you are getting a good balance. So because we want to, if this is a long-term program you're going to do, you need to make sure that you've got foods that contain iron and zinc and calcium. You know, are you getting enough vitamin D? Have you got some omega-3s in there as well? So if you're going to do it those 8 hours, it's about having quality food in those 8 hours. And if you're fasting, my advice is to make sure that you pay attention to your meals, you slow down your eating, you chew your food well. Again, that will give you a higher degree of satiety. You're going to feel fuller if you spend more time observing what you're eating and taking time to eat as well, and not just rushing it through. So my top tips and my take-home messages from intermittent fasting. There are benefits, but we're maybe a wee bit away off before knowing the full impact of intermittent fasting on our long-term health. And there needs to be more human studies done to see if they replicate the same results that they're getting in the animal studies. If you want to try something like the 5-2, the 16-8, you know, try it for a couple of weeks and see, does this fit into your lifestyle? Does it give you any side effects? Is it sustainable? Is it something you can do long term? But again, observe, is it causing you to overeat at other points? And, and does it fit in with everything else that you're trying to do as well? If you want to start fasting, the 16-8, my advice would maybe start with 12 hours first. So potentially finish eating at 8 o'clock at night, and then potentially start again at 8 o'clock in the morning, see how that feels, and then maybe potentially put it up to 14 hours, and then maybe potentially put it up to the 16 hours as well. The other thing is to stay in tune with your body, listen to what your body's saying, respond to your natural hunger patterns. So, that's a really important take-home message, whether you go to do some fasting or whether you're just working with us here at the Slimming Clinic. What does your natural pattern of eating look like? How do you enjoy eating? Where does your hunger come in as well? And think about this long term. So you're going to do this just now, but what is this going to look like in a year's time? Are you still going to be doing this? Or is this a short-term thing? How are you going to maintain that weight loss when you go back to a degree of normal eating? Because we do know that the changes you make, we want to make sustainable long-term changes with us here at the Slimming Clinic. If you find that you do something for a short period and it's caused a weight loss, how are you going to maintain that? Are you going to do 1 day a week of fasting? Or are you going to do 1 day a week of a reduced calorie intake to help you with that weight maintenance as well? So again, fundamentally, it's got to work in with your lifestyle long term. And what I tend to say is, match your energy needs with your natural hunger. And really, our bodies need more energy through the day. Quite often, I get clients come along and they eat very little through the day, but that then causes an overeat at night when we're going to store energy. So potentially look at, is it better to be more satisfied through the day and not to eat at night? Is that a kind of better pattern for you as well? So we don't have the evidence that intermittent fasting helps us live for longer, although it may indirectly affect some of our health risk factors. So we don't know whether this is the key to longer life, but some of the studies that they're looking at in animal trials show better insulin sensitivity, reduction in blood pressure and lipids. So there could be, we just have to watch this space to see whether all those other health benefits come with it. And so finally, again, that this could be a fashion. So this could be a fashion that, again, next year we're not doing, or this may be the key to long-term better life. So I think it's looking at, is it something you want to try? Do you have the energy to add this into your weight loss plan? And again, but for weight loss, there doesn't seem to be enough significant evidence to say that it's more beneficial than a normal weight loss plan on a daily restriction. So hopefully this has given you some extra information on intermittent fasting. I'm happy to answer any questions that are coming in, and I'll keep checking the Facebook page and answer any questions that maybe come up with it. So thanks guys, thanks for your time, and I hope to speak to you all again soon. Take care, bye.